Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and wow, like we got this absolutely fantastic guest that's going to be on the show today, and I am so excited to be hearing from him. He's coming from the UK, coming live from the UK, and he's just going to educate us on leadership, a whole lot of different things. But I tell you what, I'm not going to spoil that. So hey, Todd, are you doing? Is this Todd or Kevin? Todd, Kevin. Okay, I know our radio folks are there. What I want to do is lock in the television, radio, and the other different live streaming networks in at the same time. So let's do it. Okay, Todd, Kevin.
Well, you know what? We'll take a pause on that, right, babe? And we'll introduce the show ourselves.
No, it's still got to be live on the radio as well. So we got to make sure that we lock that in. So let's try to reach out to Todd and Kevin a little bit, and then we'll start this over. Okay. So let me reach out to him. Todd.
Hello.
Todd, Kevin.
They sent us a message. There's something wrong with their audio.
Okay. Ask them, can they hear us? And we can just go.
I do believe they can hear us, but
just type in there. Ask them, can they hear us?
They can hear us. They said yes. So
okay, so we'll just go with this. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to start this over real quickly again.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Just this portion of right here. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I don't know if we're having problems on which end, but hey, Todd, if you guys can hear us, can you start the show, or we'll just take it from the television side, and you guys are recording as well. So if you can hear us, let's do it. It doesn't seem to be coming from my end. I think everybody else can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes. What about you, Thom? Can you hear us in England?
I hear you fine. Yes.
Yes. So what we're gonna do is the radio got it. So wherever you're watching the show or listen to it on the radio, I'll tell you what. Welcome to the show. We got this absolutely fantastic guest here today, and we're gonna talk about leadership. We're gonna talk about a whole lot of things, especially leadership for the future. And Michelle, I am so excited about this show. I'm so excited about our guest and all the things that he's going to talk with us about and enlighten us on. So I want to go ahead and get this show started. So can you do the honors by introducing this guest and the purpose of the show and the setting?
Great. Well, the title of the show is called Leadership for the Future. And we're getting to know CEO, international speaker, entrepreneur, best-selling author, podcaster, writer, voiceover actor, and so many more, Thom Dennis. We're going to discuss the business, Serenity, and leadership, and learn about the importance of organizational culture and what happens when it's ignored, and why there's so much harassment and bullying. So let's talk a little bit about our guest today, Thom Dennis. Thom's a groundbreaking thought leader. He's gone from engineer, pilot, officer in the British Royal Marines, and healer to coach, facilitator, writer, podcaster, agent of change, and public speaker. He holds a master's in the psychology of change and is focused on rebalancing the masculine and feminine in men and women in society and business, because he sees this as a clear route to healthy cultures where everyone is included and where harassment, bullying, and the abuse of power are all eliminated. Again, he's an international speaker, voiceover actor, and Amazon #1 published author, has been featured on both BBC TV News and radio, and as a thought leader in over 320 articles in industry-leading publications such as CEO Review, HR.com, HR Zone, and HR Director just in the last 2 years. He's the CEO of Serenity and Leadership, and he's been hired by global banking, pharmaceutical, energy, and engineering brands such as Citigroup, Royal Bank of Scotland, Pfizer, and many more. He's passionate about improving cultures and bringing awareness to those in positions of power so they understand themselves more deeply and care about the impact they have on their people and the environment. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Thom Dennis.
How you doing, Thom? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, JC. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to join you on your program.
Man, it's so nice to have you on. And I know it's probably a little later in the day where you're at over in England. And so thank you for taking the time to come on the show, because we're excited. Anytime we're talking about leadership, I mean, I'm talking about in the world. Anytime we're talking about leadership, it's so important, because we all need it, So Thom, can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about you, where you grew up at, and what makes you the person that you
are? my life story in a minute. So I was born in this country in the UK, but my mother was French and my father was half French. So I have a sort of a lot of European blood in me. But sadly, we never spoke French at home. My mother had this belief that children that were brought up bilingual would develop a stutter. So I had to learn French at school, and I had a wonderful French teacher who actually didn't speak any English, which was very good. So we all had to learn French in order to communicate at all. But I was very formed by going to boarding school. I think that had a huge impact on me, and I'm sure we'll sort of touch a little bit on that as we go through this exploration. Yeah, I suppose the only other thing I'd say is that I had a sister. Well, I still have a sister. But she's 8 years older than me, and really that had the effect of my sort of feeling like an only child, and all the effects that has as one grows up. Boarding school, coming back to home, and being an only child, it sort of really formed me in lots of ways. And really, it's only in later life I can see those experiences and how they've affected me in later life. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, you can't join the dots looking forward. You can only join them looking backwards, and sort of make sense of everything. So yeah, lots of influences.
Wow. So did you have any role models when you was growing up? I know you mentioned your sister, but did you have any role models that guided you, that influenced you, or that you just watched and said, hey, I want to be just like that person one day, or even better?
Well, I think between my father and his father, those were two very powerful role models. And when I was a kid, I used to go to my grandparents, and I'd sit across the table opposite my grandfather, and behind him on a wall was a painting of Churchill. And I always thought it was a painting of my grandfather. So I kind of confused my grandfather with Churchill, but I held him in sort of similar esteem, really, as he did. I know that somewhere amongst my papers, I've got a handwritten note from Churchill to my grandfather. I think my grandfather wrote to him once and wished him a happy birthday, and Churchill responded, a little handwritten note, which was super. So yeah, particularly my grandfather and my father as well. My father had a pretty hard upbringing in lots of ways. But then at school there was one master who he was the head of music, and what an amazing man he was. He actually didn't die that long ago. And I went to a memorial service at the school. There was a huge chapel there, and it was extraordinary seeing all these people who'd been influenced by him in their schooling days, and many had become professional musicians. And just to see them all gathered and just listening to amazing music played by alumni from the school, it was very moving. But he was an extraordinary person, leader, charismatic, but very humble as well. So yeah, there's a couple of roles.
We got probably 2 minutes before the break, but I'm gonna ask you this question, and we try to get through most of it. So you have worn so many hats during your lifetime. A military officer in the British Royal Marines, to name a few, and a lot of other things. Tell us about your extraordinary life. I mean, I was a military officer in the Navy, United States Navy. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time on board one or two U.S. Ships in my time. A little bit different to the Royal Navy I experienced. Yeah. The leadership in the Marines taught me a lot of things. It taught me particularly about humility. It taught me about team work. And the power of the mission. These were all really incredibly important things, I think. The best leaders I've experienced and worked with were all humble beings. And I think that's taught me an enormous amount about what real leadership is about. It's not about making a noise. It's about caring. It's about seeing the impact that you have on others. These are traits that you see not just in the military, but really in any walk of life, and they're so powerful.
Oh yeah. So we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up from here. And I tell you, we're going to dive off into this great topic and educate and talk about leadership. So if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to whichever platform you're on and ask this great man any question that you might have. Remember, it's your life. And we'll be back shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I've got this absolutely fantastic guest here that's getting ready to tell us about leadership in the future, and also tell us about some of the great things that he's doing. I mean, like I said, this man wear a lot of different hats, and he's a podcaster, a writer, author, voiceover guy, and many, many others. But I want to talk about leadership. So, hey, Thom, can you tell our listeners and viewers why you came up with this topic and why is it so important?
Well, JC, it's like this. We're in a bit of a mess. I think the leadership that has taken us to the situation that we are now is it's not going to take us forward. It's not going to help us get through all the challenges, all the difficulties that we're facing. We're talking about going into a world recession at the moment. We are, as a species, we are destroying the environment that we need in order to survive. You know, people say save the planet. The planet will be fine. It's us that's going to suffer. We are suffering. You know, need to look at the fires that are burning and so on around the world. Water's rising, microplastics in the sea. We are doing things which you might say any sane person would just say, why are you doing that? Stop it. But that's the leadership that's got us to where we are, because it's focused on the wrong things. And so we need a new leadership, new skills, new mindsets, new attitudes to take us forward. And we can have those things. We need them.
Would you say that this is happening all over in a lot of different countries? I know how it is in the United States. And we certainly, most definitely need leadership. And I'm not talking about politicized leadership. We need people that care, not just a politician that just want power. And that is affecting everybody. And I think that's creating a major divide between the people themselves. You know, so what can we do to make sure that we identify the right leaders for the right jobs, and to ensure that we start focusing on self? I'm talking about everybody. You know, one vision, one focus, one idea, and love.
Yeah. I love that you use the word love. Yes, we could do with a bit of that. We could do with a lot of that. We are in a difficult situation because it does apply in most countries. It isn't just the US. But the political systems are based on very short timescales. So people persuade the populace to vote for them based on very short-term satisfying messages. But actually, we need a system that puts people in positions where they can lead for with a long-term view, a long-term mindset, and there isn't. I think an example is the pandemic. You know, the pandemic was such a challenge to so many people and so many systems, and actually, what we needed was the best people from whatever party, from wherever, to come together and work together to collaborate and to come up with great solutions, ideas, routes through the sort of the challenges and the disastrous situations that we had. All the time that politicians are and leaders are focused on saving themselves and making sure that they are in power, then it excludes so many really good people who just aren't associated with that grouping. We've got to grow up. An us and them attitude. So much of our life is dominated by a sort of a binary thinking, us, them, right, wrong, black, white. It's not going to work anymore. We've got to find ways to get the wisdom of the community and to apply that in such a way that, because so many of the problems we've got are long-term problems. They're not going to be solved in the period of a short-term political period. We need long-term views, which means that we need people who are not just in it so they can have power and glory and money, but they're there to serve. People in power need to get that mindset back, where they're actually the people who are voted in to represent, to be of service, to be in service. And that takes a completely different mindset. And as I said earlier, one of the most important facets of leadership is humility. And if you're working from a place of humility, you're not operating from ego.
Would you say that a lot of folks, I'm talking about people in general, they do not want change. They want it good or bad, whatever that situation is. They don't lock themselves up that this is the way it's got to be for whatever that is, good, bad, endeavoring. I don't want to change. I'm going to stay with whoever's in charge, or even though they're ruining my life and ruining everybody else. Why do you think it is so hard for people to recognize that change is inevitable? In order for us to grow as people on this earth, it's going to require change, and we have to be able to adjust and be ready for change. What can we do to, I wouldn't say influence, but get people to understand that it's going to happen?
They need to reflect a little. I mean, we are having sort of, if you like, very painful metaphors that we're living out at the moment. You only need to look at Yellowknife up in the north of Canada. I went there years ago, and to think that everybody has had to be moved out because the chances are that their hometown is going to be burned through the fires, just as we've had in Hawaii. Nobody wanted to move, but the earth doesn't care about that. The fires don't care about that. The floods don't care about that. So eventually, change is forced on us unless we really start to think about it and think, what is the best thing, not just now, not in this moment, but over a period of time. What is the best thing for me, for the environment, for my community? If people can think like that, and actually a lot of this, I've used the word community several times. I think that's one of the things that we're really missing in today's world, is that sense of community. Because when the community gets together and talks amongst themselves, then there is a much higher level of wisdom, and also a much greater level of courage to entertain and engage with change.
So, hey, Thom, you talk about serenity in leadership. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, we live in a noisy world. When you get people that come back from work, very often the TV is already on. If it's not, it's almost the first thing that an awful lot of people do. They switch on the TV or they switch on the radio. It's news, or it's music, or it's noise. And actually, it's very reassuring at one level. But what it does is it prevents you actually hearing yourself. That I often say to leaders when I'm coaching them, you need to listen to that still small voice. It's the voice of wisdom. in some circumstances, we talk about the faint voice that you can only hear if you're silent. And if you're silent, you hear that. And in that silence is a place of serenity. And that's where the wisdom is. That's where the deep knowledge is. And so for me, leadership for the future needs to come from a place of serenity in oneself.
Wow. You know what? We got to take a station break. We're going to come back. We're going to pick it up, and we're going to get even deeper than what we are right now. We just starting, people. Whichever platform that you are watching this on, or you listen to it on the radio, if you're on radio, all you do is dial 1-7. I forgot the number. 1-866-577-2473. That's 1-866-577-2473. And you call in and ask this great man any question that you might have, because it's your life. And we're going to see you shortly after the break. Okay. Yes. I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you. Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be honored to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection.
Challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, Dr. James Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And I see we got the radio. I hear you there, Todd. I hear you guys at that end. So everything is perfect. And if you want to call in, that's 1-866-577-2473. You know, God, you know, we talking leadership. We talking serenity. We talking all of these things. Staying away from the politics as much as we can, but we want people to know that it's all about you, and that we all have to come together, and we have to pick our leaders that's going to bring us together and not separate us. It's one nation, one world, one plan, one focus. And so if you want to join in on this conversation, all you do is go to the platform that you're on and just ask this great man, Thom, any questions that you might have. And I promise you I'll get it up. Thom, I want to get back to this leadership thing. And can you tell us why organization coaches, organization leadership is so important.
In terms of coaching, it's it's funny if you look at a concert pianist and you look at how they prepare to go on stage, somebody will be listening to them, somebody will be watching how they're playing. If you watch any sport, the best, and even the not necessarily just the best, many sports people have a coach. So it's kind of curious that in organizations, particularly the leaders at the top of the organization, somehow feel that they don't need a coach, or what is actually very often the case is they are uncomfortable letting anybody know that they have a coach. Why? Because it's a kind of demonstration of weakness. That's how they perceive it. I mustn't show anybody that I'm human. I mustn't show anybody that I might be fallible or might actually make some mistakes. It's crazy, really. We're human. And isn't it better if you admit that we're human and actually we do make mistakes, and the coach helps you develop, learn from those mistakes so that you don't make those mistakes again. Really, every good leader needs a coach.
You're absolutely right. Probably need several different type of coaches because several different topics, and that's what helps shapes our culture, our beliefs, and our values, our understanding. Coaching, we all need that because we all can learn from others if we take the time to listen and be willing to be trained, if you will, because no one knows everything. So can you talk about the culture? How does organization culture shapes our values, belief, behaviors of the members? I'm talking about world.
It's funny when you go into an organization, you say, oh, "Tell me about your culture," and they say, "Oh, we don't have a culture here." I've come across a lot of organizations like that, and it's like, well, you do have a culture, you're just in denial of it, and that's never a good thing. It's much better to actually explore what is it that is creating the culture. What is a culture? And some simply put, it's the way we do things around here. Who's allowed to park where? Who has to work away from a window? Who's on the executive floor? Which lifts are reserved for certain people? Do we have fridges that we can put food in? I mean, there's all sorts of things that define how an organization is run. And what's particularly interesting is that if you have a lousy culture internally, whether you like it or not, your customers sense it, they feel it, and it puts them off. I've seen really huge communication companies, telephone type companies, and actually their internal communications were dreadful. And that dissonance, that mismatch between how things are lived internally and lived externally is a real sort of clue to how things are not going so well outside. So we really need to sort of consider how do we want to operate internally, and how do we want to relate with the world externally, and we need to align the two, and that takes conscious effort. It takes people really consciously thinking about how do we want to live. And I mean, one particular thing, of course, is psychological safety. Do people want to come to work? Do they feel safe coming to the work? It's something like 75% of people dread going to work in the morning. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy. We need to create environments where it's fun, where people thrive. Organizations thrive when people thrive.
You're right about that, and all over the world, and especially in the United States, I know that many of the companies are suffering because they don't have the people to come and actually do the job, and they don't have the right type of talent, and they cannot hold and retain the talent because of some type of workplace conflicts or lack of pay, etc. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, there's an old saying that says that people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. So I think that if there's a lot of churn, people coming and going in organizations, they need to look at the culture. They need to look at the leadership. They need to look at the way that people are treated. And if it was true some years ago, it's even more true now, because the young people that are coming into organizations are much less willing to put up with being treated badly. So many more young people are actually asking, when in interviews, they're saying, what does this company stand for? Are you just here to make money? Or is there something deeper, more meaningful that this company stands for? Because if there isn't anything meaningful, I'm going somewhere else. Young people want to have meaning. They want to get a sense of what the purpose of an organization is, and they need it to be a lot more than just making money. And I think some people who've been in the business for some while are finding that kind of a little bit difficult to deal with. But they need to wake up. They need to listen and look at what they're actually leading the company for. This is not just about stockholders, shareholders, and so on anymore. Things are much deeper.
Yes, it is. And we just have to figure, and I think all of this comes down to leadership, not just from a government perspective, but from a corporate perspective, from any job perspective. People have to feel like they are wanted and that they're cared for and they're going to be taken care of. And they, most importantly, Thom, they want to be respected.
Yep.
Respect is the key.
Yeah.
So I tell you, we got to take another station break. But we're going to come back. We're going to pick all this up and we're going to talk some more and more and more. And plus, I want to get off into some of the other things that you're doing. So I tell you, whichever platform you're watching this on or listening to it, if you want to call into the station, radio station, 1-866-577-2473. It's Your Life, and we will be back shortly after the break with more of Thom Dennis. It's Your Life.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley. The J.C. Cooley Foundation is a nonprofit organization that was started in October of 2014. The J.C. Cooley Foundation continues to strive to expand.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, we'll be talking about leadership from all perspectives, not just from a government perspective, but from a corporate perspective, just from, I would even say, a family perspective. I mean, if you leading, you leading, and that's goes for the fathers, the mothers, the sisters, the brothers. I mean, we all are leaders, and we all have to have an understanding of what that is, especially when it comes to organization, and how that work. And so I want to pick it back up with that one. But hey, Thom, we got a guy here, actually in studio that wants to ask you a question. So his name is Steve Taylor. I'm gonna switch it over to him. Steve?
Yeah, Thom.
Hey, Steve.
One of the questions I want to ask you is that you spoke about culture. Sometimes in an environment where there's not a culture that is aware, what are some of the approaches you think would be best to kind of address those issues?
When people are sort of not aware of the culture that's there, you mean these things need to be brought into consciousness. They need to be faced. They need to be talked about. Because as I said, there always is a culture. And it's when you start to discuss it and you explore it, then you can begin to understand what it means.
Yes. Hi there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So a culture, I believe that's is so important that we all understand what it means. And hey, you talk about some things. You talk about toxic masculinity. What does you mean by that? That term?
I'm not sure how much they use that term in the US, but certainly over here, they talk about toxic masculinity all the time. And I think it's a very unhelpful term. It doesn't bring anything positive to the conversation that we need to be having. What it does is it upsets people. It puts them off. It if it's referred to men, it's sort of like putting the same label on everybody. And so an awful lot of men then turn around and say, well, that's not me. I don't want to have that conversation. And actually, we need to be encouraging men to have the conversation. And it's not about toxic masculinity. It's about toxic behavior, which is largely exercised by a small minority of men. Not exclusively. Sometimes there's some women who behave in pretty toxic ways. But it's about behavior. It's not about classifying people.
So let's change the topic just a little bit, because you and I were talking about this in the green room. We were talking about bullying and harassment. And, so I know that you challenged the term normal. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the concept of normal doesn't work for me. It's the majority in whatever sort of grouping that you like to look at. It's the majority that decide what normal is. I remember going to work in Nigeria, and I arrived at the airport, and I was the only white man there. So I wasn't normal, in that sense. so it's like the majority define what is normal, and then everybody else needs somehow to belong to that normality that's been defined by the majority. And we need to break that down, because it's the majority hold the power. So it is about what is normal is defined by those who have power, and that leads to all sorts of dysfunction of behavior and thinking. Who wants to be normal anyway? I certainly don't. So it's like we need to see people for who they are, not according to some measure that is defined by a grouping. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with you on that, because you just put that quite well. The majority determine who's normal. However, I believe that some people want to control the majority, and they want their normalcy to be the majority, even though that's completely opposite than what the majority thinks. So and that's where the term harassment and bullying come from. So let's discuss that issue. Why does there appear to be much more harassment and bullying going on these days, and what can we do to stop that and bring release?
Well, JC, I'm not sure that we have more going on now than we ever have done, but we're sure talking about it a lot more. If you look at where does harassment and bullying come from? Essentially, it comes from fear. It comes from somebody who is frightened, who needs to exert themselves by using power. Now, that behavior very, very often comes from early trauma in childhood. And if you look at the percentages of people who actually commit bullying and harassment, it's a huge percentage that actually were bullied or harassed when they were little. So they're only living out what they understand, and in a sense, how they've been conditioned to behave. I'm not excusing the behavior in any way. It's not okay to bully. It's not okay to harass at all. But I think once we understand where that comes from, the way that we tackle it can be different. We are in a society which wants quick answers. And the quick answer is either to lock someone up or to punish them and shame them. None of those things work. They don't work. And all they do is propagate more of that same behavior in other ways. So we need to address the root of that. And that means going right back to education. And that actually talks about funding, because our educational systems are grossly underfunded. And what's ironic is that we put loads of people into prison, which costs the society huge amounts of money. And if only we'd put that money into education in the first place, we'd need to lock up far fewer people. And that would be great.
That would be great, Thom. Thom, you are doing so many things. I want to talk about your books and your voiceover and your podcast. I know we got about 3.5 minutes, but I want to touch bases. What type of books do you write?
Well, I've written or co-authored a couple of books. One is called Daring to Have Real Conversations in Business, and the other one was The Art of Risk and Reward. And that book came out fairly recently. It was an Amazon #1 certainly in UK. I think it was in the US. And that's just looking at different people and how they got on in life by taking a risk and what the reward was. It's quite rare that we get a reward unless there's been some kind of risk. Life doesn't work like that otherwise. But I write a lot of articles which are published, as you said at the beginning, in various magazines. And I try and write topically, and that's where the podcasts come in. I'm interviewing really interesting leaders under the sort of the umbrella of leading responsibly with integrity and purpose. I think we have so much to learn from good leadership. One of the things that we're missing in society are role models. We don't have nearly enough role models, and part of that is because we've destroyed community. Everybody lives singly or in little units, and if we can bring back community, it actually will heal so much of how we live, actually.
I will bring back a whole lot. We're down to the last minute of the show. How could people get your book? How could they reach out to you if they wanted to talk with you or get in touch with you? And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So
we'll have to get me back, JC. There's a lot more that we could cover on this subject.
Hey, we most definitely gonna get you back, but can you tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. So look me up on LinkedIn, Thom with an H, Thom Dennis. And the business, the company is called Serenity in Leadership. You'll find our website there. And we're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Look me up. The two books, Daring to Have Real Conversations in Business and The Art of Risk and Reward, they're both on Amazon. Love you to buy them. And but I'd really like to hear from people what their reactions are to some of the things I've been saying. So look me up on LinkedIn. That's the place that I spend a lot of time discussing what I think are really incredibly important things for today. The leadership that we have today that has to change to take us into the future successfully.
Yeah, it has to change because, we want our youth and our young adults, they're going to be our future leaders of tomorrow. When we have to train and teach them today
Absolutely.
for the challenges of tomorrow. I tell you what, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. You're certainly coming back, Thom, if you got time in your schedule. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for always putting together great shows. I'd like to thank my producer, Todd, for always doing the right thing and making us look good on all these platforms. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Always dream big, think big, and be big. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your life. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us for the James Cooley Show. It's your life. To learn more about Dr. James Cooley and how you can support the show or become a guest, visit CooleyFoundation.org. Join James for more motivation and inspiration to help you